Hey guys, what's up? It's Steve James, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
I was just telling your manager earlier I was bummed out I missed out on the show that you just did in LA last month. So while we're talking about it, tell me about that experience. First time really performing in LA, and this is
Yeah.
the first time you performed with Martin Garrix.
Yeah, it was my first time performing with Martin, and it was my first public show in Los Angeles. I've done one show at USC, played down in Orange County before, but Exchange was like the coolest place in the world to
Right.
kind of make that first debut, and it was awesome.
What was one of the highlights for performing that night?
I would say I don't perform that often. Like I'm more of a studio kind of rat, so it was just cool to get to play my records out, some that I have made like over a year ago, and just play them and get to see the crowd just go off and have that experience.
Now it's good that you mentioned that you don't really perform that much because you're in the studio. So one question I actually had was, what do you really consider yourself? A producer, a DJ? Where are you really at?
I would say I'm first and foremost a producer and an artist. Like that's a big part too of just kind of creating stuff that's personal to me, not just producing for others. And then DJ and performer kind of comes second. But I mean, as I finish up these records that I'm working on now, I'm definitely looking forward to getting out on the road and performing more and making that more kind of a part of who I am and my artistry.
And you obviously started doing this at a young age. By 14, you're already sending stuff to all these publications trying to, pitch your music.
Yeah.
At that age, I mean, for myself, at that age, I wasn't even considering of any business related anything. So what really inspired you to be in that business mindset?
I mean, it was never really, I think, business for me. It was always like I started teaching myself to produce. I was making music that I was kind of putting my name on and was really excited about. So I just really wanted people to hear it. And I think I did a lot of research and figured out that Hype Machine and that kind of world was the way to really push that at the time. So that's what I did, was kind of reached out and tried to make friends and, develop connections in that world and get my music out there.
Now, there's always a lot of new music coming out, a lot of new artists, a lot of new DJs, you name it. At that age, I'm sure it was a lot harder to say, hey, I'm a producer, hey, I'm a DJ, check me out, and then they actually listen to you. So what were one of those tough parts that you had to really go through?
I never really felt a stigma with my age because the internet kind of takes that away when you're emailing people. I had a lot of guys who I think didn't really find out how old I was until maybe after the fact. They're writing the article and they would go and look, and then they would be like, after I had already emailed them and they're like, hey, yeah, I love this song. They'd email back and be like, wait, you're only like 15 or 16 or whatever. So I never really felt, I think that was maybe one of the good things of kind of coming from that shroud of email and iMessage and that kind of world, is a lot of people, I think it took them a minute to figure out kind of how old I was, and didn't really stop me from being taken seriously.
Do you think in a way the internet or all of this new media really helped you as far as being able to be heard?
Absolutely. And I think it's doing that for a lot of people right now. I think that you can pretty much be about anywhere in the world, and if you're making music and you know what to do with it, you can get it out there to people. So it's a really awesome time to be making music.
Right. Now, jumping into your music, your first official track was Renaissance. And from my understanding, it was one of the most hardest tracks for you to really get accomplished. So what was it about the track that it wasn't getting done?
I mean, for me, I've made a lot of changes in the last year. I've grown a ton creatively. I mean, I've been looking a lot recently. I came to Los Angeles about a year ago exactly. So it's been crazy to think over the last year and kind of how my sound has progressed and how my talent has progressed and my just understanding of even recording software and synthesis and everything. Like, I'm just learning every day. So I think it was part of just being satisfied with something at some point and not continuing the need to go back in every day once I know something new and make it better. And on top of that, I think it was also just confidence, just kind of being proud of something that I have and being able to run with it.
And how did you really learn to create this music? Is it something that you were on YouTube Googling how-to videos, or is it just a lot of trial and error for you?
Pretty much a lot of both of those. A lot of YouTube, a lot of forums, a lot of that kind of stuff, and also just a lot of trial and error and extra time late at night trying weird things that may or may not work.
Right. Now, moving forward, Renaissance is out. There's also remixes of the song out. What is next for you as far as your material? Are you working on an EP?
Yeah, I am working on an EP for probably later this year. I'm going to do some more singles in the summer. I'm actually finishing all of those up right now. So I've got a lot of stuff kind of that's 95% just ready to about send to mix and master. Yeah. And then, yeah, lots of releases for July and August. And then hopefully, like I said, more shows in the fall and possibly a larger EP sometime in there.
So we're here in the studio, and if I were to stay here while you're actually recording or making new music, what am I going to experience?
A lot of the same sounds over and over and over and over again while I tweak them and get the right textures and the right mix and the right everything like that. Yeah, it's a lot of looping and a lot of the same sound. It's a lot of melodies too. It's a lot of me playing on the keyboard. It's a lot of using the Prophet over there and kind of making sounds and recording and reprocessing. But yeah, it's a lot of the same sounds over and over and over and over again.
Now, when I talk to artists when they're out in the studio producing or with producers or working on new material, a lot of them have told me that they work on a song today, they let it go for a couple days, couple months, maybe even a year, and then they come back to it with a fresh new idea. Does that work for you also, or do you like to start your song today and be done with it as soon as possible?
I've made some pretty good ones and some that I'm really excited about that were in smaller time periods like that. But I've made some that take more like 6 months or 12 or take some time off and need a little bit of kind of time away from it because it's a lot of them are emotional too, and sometimes it takes time to just kind of think about other things and feel other things and then come back to it and maybe reinvest in that idea if it's something that I'm excited about. So I find it happens both ways.
And when you're working on your material, are you listening to other artists as well, or do you try and shut yourself off from everything else so there's no similarities?
I actually listen to a lot of other music in the studio. It varies. Some days less. Sometimes I do get more into my tracks and just kind of like being in my own world. But I'm a big fan of music. Like I have a lot of playlists that I love listening to that I like putting on. And so when I'm taking breaks and stuff, especially and trying to give my ears a break, I actually really enjoy just putting on other music that I like to kind of refresh my ears and give me kind of something interesting and something that I like to kind of fill that space before I go back in on a track.
Right now, and I believe you have a background in like more classical music, right? So how does that really blend into the dance music that we hear today?
I think it helps me in terms of just writing, getting on the keyboard and playing. I play most of my songs first. I know a lot of guys tend to just click things in, which I do a lot of too when it's faster, but I'm very picky about like piano sounds especially. So like playing all that and recording the velocities, recording the notes is always like really important to me. And I think that stands out in my music, that a lot of the melodies have been kind of built on instruments first and not within a computer and then brought into the computer. Okay. So I think that's really benefited me, and that's something that I have just from having played piano and having been classically trained since I was 40 years old.
Right. Now, what is it about the dance world that really caught your attention?
I love the energy. It's just the energy, the positive vibes, all that. I mean, I come from the town I'm from, Johnstown, is really kind of melancholy sometimes. Like it's been a shrinking town and it isn't very energetic sometimes. Okay. So I think it was just something for me to really latch onto and really inspire me when I was at a young age and just ran with it.
Yeah. Now, aside from your own material, you've actually a lot of big artists have already paid attention to your work and to who you are as a musician. Chainsmokers being one of them, and a lot of people know you from Pooh Bear. So working with these bigger artists, what has that taught you as far as being a producer or a DJ?
Well, it's certainly inspiring. I would say those guys, both the Chainsmokers and Pooh Bear, are some of the most talented guys in their respective fields, producer and DJ and songwriter and also producer. So I think just being around them and watching the kind of passion and kind of energy that they put into their work, always when I'm sitting here, by myself and everybody's gone and it's just me, it kind of reminds you that, hey, like these guys, work their ass off and I got to do the same.
Now, going into the studio with Pooh Bear, were you nervous at all? Did you feel like you weren't worthy to be in that situation, or did you feel just like another artist working with another artist?
I didn't know Pooh Bear was coming until he showed up. So I have no feeling ahead of time other than, oh, that's what's going on tonight. I just went with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you also work with Lights. That's one artist that I've worked with over the years, and I love all the production that she does. What was that experience like for you working with Lights, and what did you guys work on?
Oh, she's awesome. We are working on some stuff for her album next year, and her voice is incredible. She's so nice. She's an amazing writer. Just all around one of my favorite sessions and kind of experience. I worked with her a couple times out here, and it's been awesome.
So opportunities like this, how do they really happen? Do you reach out to the artist? Do they reach out to you?
It's sometimes that, sometimes it's set up amongst my team and amongst my publisher and people in the background. It just varies. Sometimes we have some music that isn't going to be Steve James music. It's a little bit farther left that we send around and are placing with other artists and stuff like that. Yeah. So it comes a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's either by my interest in vocals or a person, or by their interest in music or whatever.
Now, when you end up doing the next singles that you're working on, are you looking at artists that you want to feature on this, or is this something that you want to focus more on yourself?
For the summer, I'm actually really excited to do a lot of collaborations with some artists that I've really liked. I think the majority of the tracks that I have coming out are all artists that I have on my Spotify playlists and people that I genuinely listen to and am fans of, and kind of went out and said, hey, let's get together with these guys and make some music. So I'm excited to kind of share that side of it's me, and it's also kind of my taste, I guess, and some of the artists that I'm really into and listening to.
So in this situation, do you write lyrics for them to go with the song or the track that you wrote, or do you let them just get creative on their own?
So some of the songs we wrote right here in the studio, and I'm excited about those because I definitely got to be more of kind of an integral part of the production and writing process. Some of them were written externally, and then I produced and maybe had some suggestions or edits or things like that. But it's a little bit of both. I do enjoy, though, being able to be in the room and write with these guys and kind of be a part of that, telling that story and, fleshing all that out.
How do you feel now as a writer? Do you feel like you've been growing constantly, or do you feel there's still a lot that you really have to learn?
Both. I do feel like I've learned a lot just in being out here. I mean, a year ago, I really didn't even understand who writers were and what they did and kind of what their lifestyle looked like. And now I'm definitely a lot farther along than that. But at the same time, like, I'm still in sessions, a couple times a week with people who just blow my mind, like how amazing they are at putting together the right words and the right melodies over top of music. It's just, there's a lot of space to grow in that regard.
Now, moving forward, you already experienced your first LA show. Any plans for more shows? Maybe not just in LA, but maybe like a tour being lined up for this summer?
Yeah, so the summer's definitely going to be more geared towards music. I have a couple dates scattered about that I'm not sure are announced yet, so they're kind of still getting finalized and everything. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. But definitely looking more once the summer's done, and after spending that time really getting behind the music that I have and getting it finished and out there, touring that music in the fall and getting to go out and play that for people and spend time with fans and do all that stuff.
Right, and you're officially 18, so is that going to make it a lot easier for you to go on tour and do these shows, or there's still some stuff you're going to have to work with?
I think it'll be helpful. Definitely, at least in some venues, not all of them, not in all cities too, but I think that'll definitely go a long way to making touring a little bit less of a hassle.
Right. Awesome, dude. Well, lastly, for those that haven't heard your music or don't even know who you are, what makes you so different from any other DJ, producer, artist out there?
I take my music really personally. I think I'm not really looking to kind of go, at least with my artist stuff, where other people are. I've always been kind of told that I am from a weird bubble where I kind of take what I've learned from the internet and all that, but also just kind of my own, like from the trial and error, just my own experiences. So I think I'm just going to keep, locking myself in a room alone and making things that are unique and personal to me. And I hope that continues to resonate with people and, keep making friends and building this community and making music and having fun.